I normally like to start my videos out with a little meme, and I'm still going to do that. This is just an editor's note. I did record this video right before episode 3 came out. Unfortunately, because I do work full-time, it's hard for me to put out videos as often as I want to and as quickly as I want to. Normally when I get home from work, I'm pretty tired, but I was debating on if I should release this video as it does only cover Mandalorian episodes 1 and 2. But because I did put a lot of work into it, and I'm still proud of the video, I wanted to release it. Obviously, some of my predictions are wrong, because I just watched episode 3 this morning, and it was amazing, by the way, so I'll definitely be doing a video on that, because this is a series that I want to continuously cover on this channel, because you're already aware that I am the Metal Gear Mandalorian, and of course the show is called The Mandalorian. We're definitely going to be talking about it. I just wanted to throw this clip in here real quick before we started the video. I think I've distracted you all enough, so let's go ahead and just get straight into the video. Hope you enjoy.
Hello there.
They fucking did it! They did it! They finally did it! We have live-action Mandalorians, ladies and gentlemen. Mandalorians are finally getting some live-action love. God, that sounded not how I wanted it to, but anyway. For years, Mandalorians have been relegated to comics and cartoons such as Star Wars Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. This isn't to say that those other mediums are lesser by any means. In fact, Star Wars Clone Wars is one of the best pieces of Star Wars media we've gotten since the original trilogy. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend Clone Wars, but we are here to talk about The Mandalorian. Before we dive into the video, I think it's important to understand my perspective. I'm a longtime Star Wars fan who has been incredibly disappointed and displeased with the way Disney is handling the franchise since they purchased it. When The Force Awakens first came out, I was pretty excited and I really enjoyed the movie, and that was mostly because A New Hope is my all-time favorite Star Wars movie, and it's basically the same fucking movie. I think Rogue One is the only new film that I don't just flat out hate like The Last Jedi or feel kinda about like Force Awakens and Solo. I, like many others, have been desperate for some good Star Wars content free of any social justice warrior trash. The Disney era is a dark time for OG Star Wars fans, but thankfully, we have The Mandalorian, which so far has not disappointed me. With that being said, I would not call this a formal review of the series. I'm just a Mandalorian who loves Star Wars and wants to discuss it, so let's get into the video. There's not too much to cover in terms of story so far, as at the time of recording this, we only have 2 episodes, with a third one set to release on Friday, November 22nd. So far, we've seen our Mandalorian protagonist take a bounty from an Imperial, whose rank remains to be unknown, but he appears to have been a high-ranking member of the Empire, or at the very least, a heavy supporter of the Empire, hence the medal that he's wearing around his neck. I think it's more plausible that he was a military member, as he has a group of stormtroopers taking orders from him, and he's clearly very familiar with an Imperial scientist. While taking on the contract, the Mandalorian finds that the bounty is a member of Yoda's species, and I have to say this is the cutest 50-year-old being that I've ever seen. I love the little Yodelet. I mean, look at him. Tell me you're not going to buy some fucking merch with this thing on it. It's too cute. It's disgusting. The meat of the story has yet to reveal itself to the audience, so I can't critique the storyline too much, but what I will criticize is the amount of filler content we've gotten so far. I can let some filler stuff slide from the first episode, like the Fishman bounty that opens up the show. I think it was important to establish the Mandalorian as an intimidating and mostly silent protagonist who is very mission-driven and no nonsense. But the second episode is basically just one big filler episode, albeit with some sweet action scenes, fuck Jawas. This is a topic that I can revisit at the end of the season to really see how many episodes ended up being filler, because with the shockingly short length of these episodes, I don't think that we have a lot of time to mess around with pointless plot points, side stories, and useless characters. A solid foundation for a story is important, but so are the characters that carry the story forward. So far, we've not been introduced to many characters. We have the Mandalorian himself, Grief Kargas, who's the guy handing out the bounties for the guild the Mandalorian works with. I really hope we get to see more of Grief Kargas. He seems like he could be the kind of intel guy for the Mandalorian when the actual story picks up. I'm hoping they don't just stick him in the cantina and he gets visited every now and then. He's like a quest giver from the Old Republic. We're also introduced to the Contact. Contact's that Imperial who hired the Mandalorian. I mean, that's what he's called on IMDb. I don't know, he doesn't have a name yet. And of course, we have the Beskar.
Beskar?
Yes, the Beskar.
Beskar.
That's what I just said.
Beskar?
Which in the show, they call Beskar steel, even though Beskar is Mandalorian iron. So basically what I'm saying is the entire show is shit. Don't even bother watching it. It's garbage. Throw it away. Take it. Turn it off. Turn it off. We're done. Turn the fucking thing off. I don't even want to watch it anymore. Can't even get the goddamn details right. What kind of bullshit is this? Oh, and did I mention this fucking fish fucking guy? I can't stand this dude. His character design is fine and all, don't get me wrong, but he just acts like a man in a suit. He might as well just have been a human. The way he speaks and the comedy, it just felt so off to me.
I think I have to use the vac tube. I mean, I can do it here, but if you've never seen a fledgling Mythrol evacuate your thorax, you're a lucky guy, trust me.
This is not to say that Star Wars can't be funny. In fact, one of my favorite Star Wars moments of all time is comical.
Come on.
You're imagining things.
Am I? Then why are you following me? Afraid I was gonna leave without giving you a goodbye kiss?
I just assumed he's a Wookiee.
I can arrange that. And use a good kiss.
There is Star Wars humor, and then there's whatever the hell this was.
My name is Jeff.
I think some people call it, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, shit, garbage. Of course, we can't forget about the little Ugnaught. I'm going to mispronounce his name. I have no idea how to say it. Quil? Whatever. The guy's awesome. I mean, you have to be pretty badass to just be able to walk away from a conversation by saying, I have spoken. Oh, and let's not forget. Fucking love both of them. If I can see some more assassin droids, I'll be completely fine with that. I don't give a shit that he's kind of a ripoff of IG-88. I will take more assassin droids because they're badass. I really like them. They're not the most original, don't get me wrong, but I have a soft spot for these IG units. And again, Yodlet, I love this little thing. It really pisses me off because I want to buy merch of them like a plush or a pop figure. Disney found something other than the Mandalorian himself that they can hit my wallets for. Because you know damn sure I'm getting the Mandalorian and IG-11 Hot Toys figures. Since we're only a few episodes in, I don't feel like I can criticize the show too heavily for a lack of characterization for the few characters we have met so far. I do really hope we get to see and learn more about Mandalorian culture. I would fucking love to see an antagonist character later in the show to rival the Mandalorian, like a rival Mandalorian from a different clan. I think that would be badass. I know I'm a little biased. I just want to see more Mandalorians. If we can get some more Mandalorian action, more of the Mandalorians involved from the show, I would love that. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting multiple Mandalorian side characters, but I mean, just give us some more scenes with Mandalorians. I'd be really happy. The show has not done a great job yet at telling the audience who or what Mandalorians are and why they're so feared throughout the galaxy. I do have a lot of faith in Dave Filoni, who is a huge fan of Mandalorians, to do their lore justice in the series. I just have to see it. Like right now, it's just I'm hoping, and I don't think that's enough. So that's still something that I'm critical of, because I have friends and family who watch the show and they're like, what the hell is a Mandalorian? You know, they just think it's Boba Fett, but I'm hoping they explain that. The Mandalorian feels like Rogue One, which is a very good thing. Rogue One felt like a grittier version of Star Wars without losing the essence of the franchise. To give you an example, let's look at the cantina scene from A New Hope. It's a very dark and seedy cantina. Things look grimy and they give off a sense of danger. Now let's look at a scene from Star Wars Rogue One, a densely packed city street that shares many of the same characteristics as the cantina in the sense that it looks dingy and grubby, And now let's look at a scene from The Mandalorian in a cantina. If you ask me, Rogue One and The Mandalorian scenes look very similar. And I'm not sure if it's the clarity of the high-definition, modern, production cameras that we use now, but Rogue One just feels more grim without being oppressive. I like dark tones in my Star Wars, but there is certainly a limit. The Mandalorian looks and feels a lot more like Rogue One, and that's a good thing when dealing with this subject matter and this type of character. Mandalorians are warriors. Their culture, their religion is based around battle. I feel like the show so far has struck a perfect balance tonally that goes well with the aesthetics. And while we're on the topic of aesthetics, I of course have to talk about how badass the Mandalorian looks. We've seen Mandalorians a few times in current Star Wars canon. Clone Wars had Mandalorians, Rebels had Mandalorians, and of course we have Boba and Jango Fett. And yes, goddammit, I know that Mandalore says Jango was just a bounty hunter that stole the armor and he's not truly a Mandalorian, but I don't give a shit what these soft bureaucrats of Mandalore said. The Mandalorian's design is very reminiscent of Boba Fett's in terms of the mixed colors and battle-worn armor with the dents and the scratches covering it. Side note, while we're talking about the armor, maybe someone can help me in the comments. I've been wondering as to the Mando's armor, is it all Beskar right now? The opening scene from episode 1, that one thug questions if it's real Beskar, and it did reflect a blaster bolt, but then when the Mando gets his pauldron forged, it's metal colored and not painted like the rest of his armor. Not only that, but in the second episode, it appeared that while fighting the hairy rhino, it's called a mudhorn, the Mandalorian's armor gets shredded except for the shoulder pauldron and the helmet. If someone could just fill me in the comments down below, I'd really appreciate it. There are some minor inconsistencies and questions that came to mind during my watching of the show. I've seen each episode a few times now. When the Trandoshans ambush the Mandalorian and we see that they're also tracking the little Yodelet, why doesn't the Mandalorian just ditch the baby carriage? I remember watching this with my brother the other day and he's like, just fucking ditch the stroller, dude. In my head, I was thinking that the Empire might be tracking it, and by it, I mean the Yodelet, by midichlorian count. Since Disney did keep in midichlorians in the Star Wars universe for whatever fucking reason, but that's me writing the script, and so I'm going to take that as a flaw. I shouldn't have to write the script for them. They should tell us this information. This is something that's definitely more of a personal thing, but I feel that the show is lacking fun, and I know that's odd seeing as how I said it's a good thing that it feels like Rogue One, but I think that they could still inject some more light-hearted moments. Like I can recall when the Mandalorian and IG-11 were fighting off all the bad guys when they were trying to infiltrate the compound. IG-11 was trying to do a self-destruct sequence, and the Mandalorian's like, no, stop it. And that was kind of funny. It was a fun little back and forth.
You plan! Beginning self-destruct countdown. No, stop!
So I think you can still have a very serious tone, and the Mandalorian can still be a badass, but you can still have fun with it. To this day, I think one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars, when Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie were trying to escape the Death Star, and Luke and Leia had to swing over that sheer drop, and it was just exciting, the music and everything. It felt heroic, and I would like some more of that feeling in this show. The entire time while watching the show, I've been trying to think about why I enjoy it so much, and I've had to question, is it because it's a well-crafted show with an excellent cast and solid writing, with stimulating and interesting cinematography, or is it because it doesn't suck as bad as The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, or Solo? I think it's kind of a bit of both, honestly, and that and my bias, as it's a show about Mandalorians, the most interesting beings in the Star Wars universe, don't at me. When it's all said and done, so far I feel like it's a step in the right direction when it comes to Disney Star Wars. We've yet to see any of Kathleen Kennedy's The Force is Female garbage creeping in and ruining another Star Wars project with her bullshit SJW identity politics. I really do hope that The Mandalorian and future Star Wars TV shows can start to repair the damage that Ruin Johnson has done to this once great franchise. If you were to ask me if I would recommend it, I would say yes. I think it's worth watching, and this is coming from a very jaded Star Wars fan. A fan that has time and time again felt burned by Disney and its directors that they have chosen to helm these films have shown that they don't care about the fans. They could not care less about what we want. But this show feels like it's made by fans for fans, and that has a lot to do with Dave Filoni. I cannot tell you how happy I am. I am beyond thrilled that Dave Filoni is involved in this project because this is a man that knows Star Wars, that loves Star Wars, and wants to give fans something that they can get behind. Something that the fans have been asking for years since Disney has taken over. Some fucking respect and some great Star Wars. If you don't want to give Disney money, I completely understand, and I suggest sailing the high seas if you catch my drift. Yes, that was a pun. I'll just see myself out. That pretty much wraps up my thoughts on The Mandalorian so far. Have you been enjoying the show, or have you given up all hope on Star Wars? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, drop a like, and if you disliked it, then get fucked, nerd. I'm just kidding. I'm sure I'll see your hate down in the comments below. Anyway, I'll see you all in the next video.